Welcome to Hey Girl Hey. I'm Susie Bulloch, and today we are making homemade peppered beef jerky. I'm gonna teach you the ins and outs, building a great jerky marinade, how to dehydrate your jerky in your smoker or your oven. So let's get started. We're gonna start building our marinade for our jerky. And I like adding in a lot of aromatics in jerky to infuse the beef with a lot of flavor. So we're gonna start by crushing and giving a rough chop to 4 cloves of garlic. I like to use the flat side of my knife, just smash it like that. So you can peel the skin away and then just give it a rough chop. Take your garlic, slide it into a gallon zip top bag. This is my favorite way to marinate jerky because it allows you to massage that marinade over all sides. So we got our garlic in there. We start with the base of our marinade. This is 1 cup of soy sauce, a half a cup of Worcestershire sauce. How do you guys say that one? Worcestershire? Worcestershire. Anyway, half a cup of brown sugar, 2 teaspoons of onion powder, 2 teaspoons of red pepper flakes. This adds a little bit of heat, and 2 tablespoons of black pepper. Now, I did add quite a bit of brown sugar, and that's because I like the sweet with the heat. If you want less sweetness in your jerky, cut the brown sugar in half, and it'll add just enough to cut that acidity and salt of the Worcestershire without overwhelming you with sweetness. Give it a good mix in the bag. Break up any clumps of that onion powder. And we didn't add any additional salt to the marinade because there was plenty of salt in the soy itself and in the Worcestershire sauce as well. Now, here's another optional step. This is pink curing salt, also known as Prague Powder or instacure. This is cure number 1. And this is intended for short, wet cures. And that's exactly what we're doing with jerky. If you want to, you can add at a ratio of 1 teaspoon per 5 pounds of beef of this pink salt. Make sure it's nice and level. This is not the same as Himalayan pink salt. This is a nitrate curing salt that's dyed pink so that you don't confuse it for regular salt. And what this will do is extend the shelf life of your jerky. This will allow you to smoke or dehydrate your jerky, and then it can stay stable at room temperature for up to 6 weeks. So if you're looking for some longevity, the curing salt is a great way to go. Again, it's optional. If you don't use the curing salt, this jerky will still last for 2 weeks. Just keep it in your refrigerator. Now it's time to add our beef. When you're choosing what kind of beef roast to use for making jerky, look for something that has very little intramuscular fat. That means the fat that runs through the muscle itself. Because when the beef dehydrates, the muscle will lose its moisture and the fat won't. And so any excessive fat in there is what will cause your jerky to go rancid faster. So choose something like an eye of round roast or a top round, which is sometimes labeled a London broil. I've known people to use flank steak and even brisket. All of those are good options as long as you can slice it thin. I actually have my butcher slice mine for me. So grab your roast, take it up to the butcher counter, ask him to slice it for jerky. Tell him you want it at about a 2. And I like to slice mine against the grain. That makes it break apart really easy. If you like the long, thin strands of jerky that you can tear apart, have him slice it with the grain. It's just up to what you like to eat. So this goes directly into our marinade. This is about 2 pounds of eye of round. Give it a really good mix. The last step is to add 1 cup of beer, or if you don't want to add beer, you can use beef stock. What this does is kind of break down those super concentrated flavors of the Worcestershire sauce and the soy, make it all a little bit more balanced. Give that one more good toss. And then into the fridge, either overnight, at least 8 hours, or you can push it up to 24, 48 hours. Just know the longer you go, the saltier and more intense the flavor will be. Our jerky has been marinating overnight. It's the next day. We're ready for our next step. And I like to take my jerky out of the marinade. I've got a pan prepared with some paper towels on it. Just remove your jerky, give it a little shake to lose some of those bigger chunks of garlic, and then set it on the paper towel. And we're actually gonna press each piece between two paper towels to remove any excess liquid from the outside. And what that will do is help our jerky dry more evenly and a little bit quicker. Pulling the last one out of the marinade. At this point, you can discard the marinade. I just zip it up, toss it in the trash. It makes using the zip top bags really easy. And then I've got all of my jerky pulled out, flattened, and slightly dried on the paper towels. You're not gonna be able to get all the moisture, and that's okay. Just give it a press, get out what you can, and that's where using this sheet tray is great because it catches any reserved juices. We're ready to head out to the smoker. I am keeping my smoker between 160, 180 degrees. We don't want it any hotter than that or it'll actually cook too quickly and it can burn the sugars in the marinade without really drying the meat out. You can do the same thing in your oven. Keep the temperature around 170 degrees and then crack it open. I like to use just a wooden spoon set inside the door, because what that does is it allows any moisture inside of your oven to escape and actually dry the jerky. So on my smoker, I put it directly on the grill grates. That allows the air to get around all sides of the jerky. If you're doing this in your oven, use a cooling rack just like this one, and you can lay each piece out. Make sure none of them are touching. And then once you've got them laid out, either on your dehydrator racks, on your cookie sheet, or outside on your smoker, sprinkle it with a little bit of this black pepper on the top. That'll give you that final classic peppered jerky bite. And on my smoker, I am using hickory wood. Another good option would be something mild like a cherry or an apple. I would not recommend using a stronger flavored smoke like mesquite. Even oak can be a little bit tough just because it is a lot of smoke. And that's great, but those stronger flavored woods can be overwhelming. So pick something a little bit mild and you're good to go. Our peppered beef jerky is done and off the smoker. I like to put it into a zip top bag while it's still warm. Just kind of let it steam and cool down in the bag with the lid open. When it's cooled to room temperature, zip it closed, and that'll help keep your jerky moist and tender without having too much excess moisture locked in with it. Now, this will last at room temperature because we put the curing salt in it up to 6 weeks. If you did not use the curing salt, it'll last for 2 weeks. Keep it refrigerated. Although honestly, you're gonna have a really hard time getting it to last that long, especially if you have kids, friends, neighbors, a dog. This stuff is awesome. It's got a nice peppery bite. It's really not too sweet. You can barely taste that brown sugar, almost a molasses flavor in the background. That pepper is right there in the forefront, super strong. It's not too spicy. This is good stuff. I hope you guys love this one. Give it a try. If you guys try this recipe, I would love to hear your thoughts on it in the comment section below. Please leave us comments, like this video, and definitely subscribe to our channel because we're putting out new grilling and barbecue recipes every single week, and I want you to be the first to know about it.